Hi, I'm Diana.
And I'm Toria. We're with the human community, and we'd like to thank you all for joining us today.
Absolutely. Today we're honored to welcome Manuel Lucero IV. He's the executive director of the Museum of Indigenous People in Prescott, Arizona. Manuel has called Prescott home since 2007, where he, his wife, and children have become deeply woven into both the native and local communities. He's a veteran of the United States Army with an educational background in American Indian Studies.
Since joining the museum in 2014, he has worked to keep its mission alive, to instill understanding and respect for the indigenous cultures of the Southwest. His life is rooted in ceremony, community, and service, from participating in powwows and gore dances across the region to serving as a chaplain at the local Veterans of Foreign War Post. Manuel believes that it's never too late to make things right, and his work reflects that belief every day. We are so grateful to have him with us today to share his wisdom, his stories, and his vision for honoring the past while building a better future. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, Manuel. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's so nice to meet you.
It's wonderful to meet you as well, and good to see you again, Toria.
It has been how many years? Probably like 4 or 5 since I saw you at the museum.
Yeah.
Beautiful museum.
Oh, well, thank you.
We've got Indigenous Peoples Month coming up, and I think, isn't it October 13th you're having an event?
Indigenous Peoples Day, because we don't do Christopher Columbus. We don't celebrate the day that Indigenous people found him lost at sea. We celebrate Indigenous people. But in November is actually Native American Heritage Month, which coincidentally is also the month we have Thanksgiving Day. Sorry.
Thanksgiving.
But yeah, it's something we do here in October, and we also got an event tied to it called Red Spirit, where we'll be launching our capital campaign for a new welcoming center at the museum.
Beautiful.
That will also work as a cultural center, and so we're excited about that. It'll be a lot of fun.
That sounds great.
Oh, wonderful. So I have purchased things from the museum from a distance. Are you going to allow that again on that day where you ship?
We do. We have a limited amount of things online. Everything that we do carry that's for sale, besides, of course, T-shirts with the museum logo, we always try to, even with that, we try to use Native-owned businesses to do that. Everything that we do have in what we call our trading post is Native-made. Everything.
Yeah.
When I first came on board here at the museum, I went into the trading post or gift shop, and there were dream catchers from Taiwan and Chinese stuffed animals and I pulled all that stuff out of there, and I put it on a table and put a big sign that says "Not Native Made, $1," which really ticked off our bookkeeper because she's like, "That costs money to buy." I'm like, not in this shop.
Yeah.
Contacted as many of my Indigenous artist friends that I could and said, "Hey, you got inventory, we'll buy it." And then proceeded to make sure from then on there was nothing that wasn't authentic in there. If we can't find, like for the t-shirts or the little plastic buttons or magnets or whatever, the souvenir type tchotchke things that have the museum logo on it, if we can't find an Indigenous vendor that can help us with that, then we try to stay as local as possible to keep our money in the community regardless of if they're Native or not. And then, from there, but we've never had to go overseas.
That's great.
We try to keep it as authentic as possible. I mean, you come to a museum, you should be getting something real to take home.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go outside of the country or your own area for that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, let's start at the very beginning. Can you share a little bit about your heritage and how your life journey led you to become the director of the Museum of Indigenous People?
Sure. I mean, if you look at me, I'm clearly not a full-blooded native person. I'm not. I'm a mixed blood. My mother is, last name is Sullivan. She's Irish. She's 1/8 um, native, and my father is half. So, according to my blood quantum, I am 5/16, so just a hair over a quarter. Um, my folks come from Cherokee Nation, Oklahoma, particularly around Pryor, Tulsa, and Tahlequah. So, Oseo to other Chalake people out there, and again, Waton for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. Growing up, my brown cousins, as I used to call them, as opposed to my white cousins on mom's side, my brown cousins would not always be nicest to me. I remember being younger and they'd throw rocks at me and call me honky and all kinds of things like that. But, just like in Latino culture, you'd have that one cousin, hey, güero,
Yep.
same. It made me, I guess, double down on who we were as people and as a family and who we are. But I continued on. When I got of age and I joined the United States Army, after I spent 8 years in the Army, I'd gotten out and I wasn't doing all right. I had a couple of deployments under my belt and whatnot. And, in my head, I wasn't okay. And, I drank to kind of numb that. And my grandma got a hold to me and was like, she called, Manuel, come and, take me to this powwow. Or, take me over here they're having an elders gathering. Take me over here. And, okay, Grandma, and I'd go get her and pick her up and drive her up in the hills and mountains or what have you. And, I'd sit next to her and go get some fried bread, and I'd get her some fried bread and water and stuff. We'd sit there. You see those old men dancing like that? That's our way. Yeah, Grandma, I know. Well, you should grow your hair out long, because I still had a high and tight, military hair. You should grow out your hair and go out there and start doing ceremony. Grandma, I'm kind of white, and she's like, bullshit, everyone here knows you're an Indian, So, she, yeah, she knew what she was doing. She mastered psychology, that one.
Yes.
And she got me, right, to come back to the blanket like that, to come back to doing what I should be doing, and to start doing. And I tell you, it helped me. It helped me because now I didn't have a need to pick up, a bottle of Jack Daniels. I didn't have a need to go, out to a bar or something. I didn't have a need. I didn't have time because then I started school using my GI Bill, and when I did that. I'm looking at, because, back then, because none of us are spring chickens here, there was no internet, right? You open the newspaper type thing with all your classes in there, and you picked the ones and you wrote them, on the paper,
Yep.
Right? So I see American Indian Studies. Now it's Native Studies, I guess. But I'm like, wow, that'll be an easy A. Grandpa used to tell me Indian stories all the time. I'm gonna get an A in this class. And so I majored in American Indian Studies, and not thinking about, just the way I grew up and our language and, our people. But, there's was it 574 federally recognized tribes today? Yeah, I had to learn American Indian law, cultural pluralism, American justice system, American Indian worldviews, which, would basically be, various religious and spiritual practices, American Indian art, and it wasn't just my own folks that I was learning. I was learning about a lot of people, which ended up with me traveling about and visiting different reservations and communities and. But I could have just took anthropology. Well, I had to do that too, anthropology and archaeology and all the labs and the field work and all that stuff, which I really didn't like doing. I didn't like touching those things because I was always told you shouldn't. The ancestors left them there for a reason. You shouldn't mess with them. I toughed it out and did the thing. I could have just did anthropology and had an easier time at it, but I did all the things, and I got my education and I'm ready to hit the world with this new education. And what do you do with something like that? Well, You end up being an electrician for 16 years, which is what I did.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
You're either going to work for a tribe or a museum or something like that. And that just isn't really, a high demand job.
Mm-hmm.
The folks that are in those jobs, they like to hang on to them, and that's kind of it. So again, I ended up being an electrician and going to technical school and doing that. My wife and I had moved out here. She's a lot smarter than I am. She's Yaqui and Kiowa tribes, but she's more close to her Yoeme Yaqui people. And when she was going to college, she got this fellowship to continue her education. Of course, you come to Arizona, we'll pay for it, you can work for the tribe. So she ended up saying, hey, I'll get enrolled in ASU and we'll move out there. And I'm like, okay, let's follow your dreams, because apparently I can be an electrician anywhere. So we moved out here to Arizona. At first she was like, well, we could live down in Tucson, reservation, there's a Yaqui community in Glendale, we can live down in Phoenix or Tempe, by the school. And I'm looking at, because by that time we got Google and all that, so I'm looking at weather and
I was just going to say.
and all that, and I'm like, it's hot. I don't want to do that. I'm sensitive to sunlight.
Yes.
Genetically.
I am too, and I was born and raised in Arizona.
I'm, you're gonna cook this okie up there. So I said, hey, let's look at the rest of Arizona, and we saw like the Prescott area, and I'm looking at, well, weather. I said, these folks got all 4 seasons, but you really don't got to shovel snow. That's
Sometimes.
key. Yeah, well, sometimes, but it ain't a lot. It ain't every day.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, and it's kind of small town vibey, and we're raising kids. Let's do that. I'm unloading the moving truck, and my wife had set up her little desk with her computer, and of course, the internet is on and all that. And I said, honey, why don't you look up what the local tribes are here, and where's the Indian community kind of hang out, where the powwows at, where can we go to Sweat Lodge, and what's going on, so we can get involved with the local native community. And she's like, well, the Yavapai tribe and their reservation, and then the Yavapai Apache. So that makes sense. We're in Yavapai County, And she goes, there's this other tribe called the Smoky, Smoki, Smoky. You ever heard of them? I said, no. I'm thinking of all the tribes that I know offhand. No, I've never heard of them. She's like, well, they have a museum in Prescott. I was like, well, maybe we should check that out. And then laughing, she goes, honey, you got to come here and look at this. And she goes, these Smoky people, it's pronounced Smoke-Eye, and they are white guys that would dress up and pretend to be Indians.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, well, I guess we're never going there. After saying that we should go check that out.
I got goosebumps right now.
Right. So fast forward to fall, because this is back in spring. Fast forward to fall, and we're at Watson Lake Park at the annual powwow here in Prescott. And I had met the president of the committee when I was setting up camp. At first, my wife and kids were inside the tent, and she was changing the baby's diaper. And I was outside, chopping up some kindling, fire going. And the president of the Prescott Powwow Committee comes up, and she goes, we're having a powwow this weekend. And I said, I'm aware. And, I had a ball cap on. I wasn't wearing glasses back then. I had a lot more hair. And it was darker.
So she didn't realize?
She didn't realize, well, I looked like a white guy, and she just thought I was some random white dude that showed up and was going to camp at the powwow with the Indians. And I said, I'm here for the powwow. She goes, what are you here for? Are you a vendor? And I was like, no, I'm a dancer. She said, what style of dance do you dance? And I was like, Southern Straight, gourd. And she goes, oh, what tribe are you from? And I was like, I'm from the Cherokee Nation. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry, and here's a parking pass, and here's our schedule. And I was like, oh, okay. So Friday rolls around, 'cause it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday out there, that they powwow. I make my way down, and this time I'm dressed out, my roach on, feathers, and my regalia and everything, and I'm making my way over from the campground to the powwow arena. And she goes, "Oh, hello, Manuel, this is so and so from the Smoke Eye Museum, and she's the director." And I go, "Hi."
Oh,
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm thinking, what the hell is this lady doing here? Trying to cheese up to the actual, this is the first time I'd met her. Shouldn't have had a Cindy Gresser was
Yep.
her name, and she is a wonderful person. And she was the one that kind of started even though as a white lady, started the decolonization process and involving Native people and using the museum as a venue for the Native voice, as opposed to some white guy who wrote a book after he read a book by some other white guy telling you what Native culture is. More of giving Indigenous people that ownership of their own stories. And so she did well as an ally in that way. I was not aware of that at the time, so I'm just like, I go and set up and whatnot, and the powwow is a nice little powwow. There's two drums, and there's about maybe 24 or so dancers, and maybe another dozen or so vendors, if that, selling jewelry and art and things, and a fry bread stand. So I'm like, wow, this could be bigger. My wife and I in college were on the powwow committee, and we threw the third largest college-sponsored powwow in the state of California at the time.
Nice.
And so I run into one of the committee members, and I said, "Hey, where do you guys meet at? Would you like some help? My wife and I used to be on a committee." And he's like, "Yeah, you should come to a meeting. This will be great." And I was like, "All right, where do you meet at?" And I'm thinking on the Res Community Center. And he's like, "We meet at the Smoke Eye Museum." And I'm like,
it keeps
"You're
coming back.
kidding me."
It keeps coming up.
I know. I'm like, seriously, bro?
That's spirit.
Yeah, and so I come to a meeting, and I get to know Cindy Gresser a little better, the director, and she's like, "It's not like that anymore," because I was like, "Hey, what the hell is going on with this place?" She's not like that. We're trying to change things and do the right thing and all this and that. And you need to go in there and look. So I went into the museum. She opened it up. It was after hours. I just kind of walked through, and I found a few things that were inappropriate, things that they shouldn't have on display. Things were displayed incorrectly, just misinformation, things like that. And I pointed them out to her. And I think at that point she had an epiphany that this guy should work here.
Yeah.
we
You
need
should
this.
be the assistant director at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So fast forward, I'd say 3 or 4 years from there, and I was hired as the assistant director
That is
at the then
fabulous.
Smoke Eye Museum. And what immediately we started to work on is, I said, our board of trustees, they need to be Native people. Not just one. They need to be a majority Native people. So we started to work on that and recruiting community members to sit on the board and help get this museum to where it needs to be. And one of the biggest things that we would hear from Indian country when we're asking for help, or somebody to come and help with an exhibit, or help explain things and so on, because we want to do things the right way. I don't think I can do that. Well, why not? Well, the Smoke Eye and that history, and we don't want to be affiliated. Okay, well, we're doing this, 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 and this, and we're changing this, 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 and so what do you think now? And say, well, I could come. When are you changing the name? So that became a big focus. And in 2019, in December, the board of trustees unanimously decided to change the name of that museum, the Smoke Eye Museum of American Indian Art and Culture, to the Museum of Indigenous People. And what it boiled down to is like, who are you? Who are you really? Well, we're a museum of Indigenous people. Then there's your name.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I think that's
So,
when I met you.
yeah,
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 it
right
was like
around the
back
time
in
we,
2019-ish, around
yeah,
there, yeah.
yeah. So, it was crazy because the night after they had that meeting and they changed the name, a big wind came. And I
Oh,
was pulling in around into the main road there on Arizona Avenue in Prescott. And there's a big sign out front on the road that said, Smoke Eye Museum. It was red and it had an arrow, of course, with painted turquoise. And it had broken and blown down on
wow.
the night that they changed that name. I was like, wow, there's a sign. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Pun
But
intended. Yeah.
yeah, all puns intended. I was like, yeah, right on. So we went forward with it. We had some pushback by, of course, there's folks, good old folks here at Prescott that didn't like us changing their history.
It's
Well,
always been this way.
yeah, right. I can't even spell indigenous. Well, that's a you
That's the
problem.
problem.
Yeah.
There's no better time than the present to start
Um,
learning new things.
yep. So we went forward with it. We're doing quite well, and again, a majority of our board of trustees are still indigenous people.
That's
We
beautiful.
have a Native Advisory Council beyond that, made up of various tribal affiliated folks. We just hired our new tribal and community resource officer. He is Laguna, Pueblo, and Tene, Navajo, and Mexicano. Um, but we're trying to do the best we can. And I think the model for that, our mission here is to instill understanding and respect for the indigenous cultures of the Southwest. We're not a huge museum. We're quite small, as you remember. So we don't have enough, honestly, square footage to talk about every indigenous, culture in the Americas, plural. But what we can focus on is the folks here in the Southwest. And contemporarily, the folks that, have moved away from their traditional communities and, like everyone else, need to get a job, got to do the thing, transplants, if you will. So we try to be that space where folks like myself and my wife and others that are around here in the Prescott area have a place that they can feel like home.
Yeah.
And people understand your kind of dark sometimes sense of humor, and and all those things that go with it. So we're totally reshaping what it was. We're decolonizing.
And that will have a ripple effect. Although
Yeah.
you're taking care of your space, it will have a ripple effect. Even now
Hmm.
over here, I feel the power in what you've done and bringing it back home. I feel that.
Although, sometimes it's a lot and it's overwhelming, and you're like, oh, am I even doing anything?
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. That makes my heart feel good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful museum. It's a beautiful
Well, thanks.
museum. I spent a lot of time on your new website.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's from our new guy coming in, and he
That's excellent.
he put that good medicine on it.
So I'll make sure that we put the website at the bottom so that everybody knows, and everyone will be invited to visit the new website. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah. So I know that in our conversations you have mentioned that it's your belief that it's never too late to make things right.
Mhm.
Can you speak to us about what that means exactly when you say that?
Um, it means a lot of things. You know, just the nature of being human. We don't always put our best foot forward. We don't always treat people the way they should be. We don't always have control of our emotions or things like that. That's just the nature of being human. I mean, we can't be perfect uh, because we're not. Sometimes people get hurt on things that we do. When I think of it for myself personally, I think of things that I have done in the military that, maybe could have been different or not at all. I think of transgressions the government has made against Native people that could have been done different or not at all. But there is no reason that you can't go back, address it, acknowledge it, and then make change. Because as people, we do the best we can with what we know. We do the best we can. And you continue to do that until you know better. And once you know better, then you do better. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult. It's not high psychology and, oh, we gotta. No. It's that simple. So no, it's never too late. It's never too late to make things right. It may not what your goal is and whatever that particular project might be. It may have to continue past our own lifetimes. But to start that, to start making things right, is not outside the scope of humanity. It never should be. That's my own personal belief with that. So without getting too deep, I don't know, I kind of ran kind of deep with that, didn't I?
No,
Without getting too deep, that's
it's
what I mean by that.
so such great wisdom, and I think you said it best, that it starts with the acknowledgement.
Absolutely. You can't fix something if you're not acknowledging that it's broken.
Right.
You know, if you're driving, hey, you got a flat tire. What tire? I don't.
Right. I don't have a car.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to acknowledge it. You have to address it and acknowledge it, and then now you can examine like what's going on. How do we fix this? How can we make it right?
And that comes with a level of maturity, not just age, but
sure.
just emotional maturity and just life maturity.
And growth from ignorance, too. There's a lot of ignorance. Yeah.
Willful ignorance.
Yes.
I mean, we have information at our fingertips now. You pick up your idiot brick and look up anything.
Right. Right.
There's no reason people should be living in ignorance, but a lot of it's willful.
Yes.
And that's hate, and that's maybe something they need to work on to be better, to do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, how does storytelling keep the wisdom, culture, and history of our indigenous ancestors alive?
It's storytelling and language go together. Now, I can tell you, a story in Cherokee, or you can hear a story in Dene, or in any other native language, and I can tell you the same story in English, and you'll understand the story. But in our language, the stories actually affect what you're saying and who you're saying it about and what you're describing, whether they be place names, because those place names have to do with these stories and how they got that name. It could be one of our four-legged relatives, or the creepy crawlers or the flyers, the standing people, the trees. They could be why that particular being has that name, because it has to do with our stories. Because if I told you, let's say you learned Cherokee, right, and you knew the words, but you didn't know any of our stories, any of the creation stories or any of that, and I pointed to this little water beetle, and you've seen them by creeks and stuff. They have the little paddles on the side, and they could dive down, little black beetle. That beetle's name, her name is granddaughter to the beaver. But if you don't know our stories, and I just say, yeah, granddaughter to the beaver, you're going to like, what the heck is he talking about? Because the language and the stories tie together. And those stories also teach us how to treat each other, or how not to. They teach us why things are, and they explain worldviews, the way we view the world as human beings. They do all these things, and that's kind of the root of culture. The way you view the world around you and interact with it. So the stories will tell us and teach us these lessons, sometimes on multiple levels. That's why storytelling is important to culture. With all these old stories, you might be having trouble, and an elder, grandma, grandpa, uncle, auntie might come say, a long time ago there was this thing that happened, and so did this, and yeah, and they'll just kind of leave it at that. So you can think about it, wait a minute, you know, even though our times have changed, we're in 2025, not 1725, 1825. Times have changed, but human beings, we really don't, you know. And you think about popular culture today, there's even a word for it, popular culture. We, as Americans, modern day Americans, we still sit around the light, like a fire, right? We still sit around the light and we like listening to stories. Today we call it television.
Yeah.
We still do it. We don't change. And a lot of these stories we're listening to have lessons. Some of them are purely for entertainment, but we still do it. So we still use those traditional stories today on how to behave and how not to behave and so on. There's a story that not long ago is about possum. You ever seen a possum?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're kind of look like a giant rat, and the tail they
Right.
got is all ratty. And
I think they're adorable. I do. I think they're adorable.
The America's only marsupial, yes, because there's no one else to compare them to. Yes, they're adorable. But see, a long time ago, the possum used to have the most beautiful tail out of all the animals. The fox with his red tail, fluffy, and the white on the end, beautiful. Got nothing on this guy. Squirrel with his little cute tree tail, nothing. Possum's tail was gorgeous. The problem is he knew it. He knew it, and he made sure everybody else knew it too. He had that kind of bragging attitude, and carrying on about himself in that way. So when we were out at Watson Lake at Prescott Palm, and my daughter had been gifted, my daughter Walelo, had been gifted a jingle dress, and she always wanted to be a jingle dress dancer like her auntie. But you can't just go make that dress and then go out there and do it. That medicine has to be given to you. And then there's, the women will take, they'll dress them up. They have the right to give that medicine. That comes from the Great Lakes area, Ojibwe people, Anishinaabe people. But they will dress the young lady and then put her out there in front of the community so everybody knows that young lady now has that medicine to share with the people. It's a healing dance. So she had, maybe her second or third year, she was jingle dress dancing. She was pretty good. Yeah. And I was back at the camp and we were making spam sandwiches or something for lunch. And she comes running up with one of her little friends, and she's, Dad, do you see me out there dancing? I was like, yeah, baby, you're beautiful. Thank you for those prayers, and thank you for dancing for the people like that. That was beautiful, thank you. And she goes, yeah, I was rocking it. I said, whoa, that's not why we do this. We don't go out there showing off that way. That's not why we dance. That is not why we do any of this. The possum, he used to have the most beautiful tail. And, he would brag all the time how beautiful his tail was, and he was showing it off. And the other animals, they got tired of that. They didn't want to deal with this guy. It was getting on their nerves, because his behavior. And bragging all the time, and carrying on about himself and his beautiful tail. So the animals got together and had kind of counsel. So what are we going to do about this guy? He's always acting up and making people around him feel uncomfortable, and it's no good. We got to fix him. Now, see, out west is the coyote, is the trickster, right? Back east, with the eastern tribes, the rabbit is our trickster. So the coyote is always trying to do things outside the box of normal behavior to accomplish a goal, like, catch a roadrunner.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
The rabbit, as our trickster, he always gets over on whoever he's doing. He might dress up like pretend to be somebody else, whatever, like Bugs Bunny. Yeah, not only did they steal the land, they stole our
They
characters
did. They
too.
stole that. Yeah, I
But,
was just going to say
but,
that. Wow, that sounds so
but,
familiar.
yeah, Americana,
Yeah,
Americana.
yeah.
But the rabbit in this council, he says, "Hey, I know a way we can fix that possum. We can fix him real good." And the other animals like, "What do you got in mind?" You know, because they know the rabbit's reputation. You know, he can take care of stuff. And he's like, "We're gonna put on a big old dance." Everybody's like, "Hmm." "And we're gonna ask the possum to be the head man." Everyone's like, "Man, you're just gonna swell his head up bigger than it already is. Like, why would we ask him to do that? We're trying to fix this guy." Rabbit says, "No, no, no, trust me. I got this. I'll take care of it." So, you know, they do. They know his reputation. They're like, all right, all right. So the other animals set about setting up, you know, an arbor, round arbor to dance, clearing out everything, a shade around for the others to sit under. And Rabbit went over and looking for possum. He found him. There's a little bend in the creek where the water's kind of still and glassy. Of course, the possum's looking down in that water, and he's looking at his reflection, you know, combing his tail like this, you know, like an Instagram model, huh?
Selfie.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's combing his tail and, you know, loving on himself in the reflection. And Rabbit says, "Hey, possum, we're gonna put on a big old dance, and we want you to be the head man." Possum's like, "Of course you do. I'm gorgeous." He's like, "Yeah, I got this idea. I'm going to take you over here to this moon cricket, to this cricket, and he's going to comb out your tail so it looks better than it already does for that dance." Possum's like, "That's a good idea. I like that." So Rabbit takes him over to the cricket's hut, and Rabbit starts singing him a song. And the possum starts to fall asleep. Well, cricket gets to work, and if you ever left an old coat or anything like that or blanket out, and the crickets got to it, you know what happens next, right? Possum's there asleep. Cricket proceeds to cut every single hair off of his tail. He just cuts it all off. So Rabbit goes and grabs some birch bark, some twine. He wraps up that tail real tight, back all the way down, put twine around it, hold it up. Eventually, Possum wakes up, stretches. He says, "Oh, hey, what's going on? What's that birch bark all over my tail?" Rabbit says, "Oh no, don't take that off. We put some special berries and medicine in there, like a conditioner, so that when you go out there for the dance and you make your way around that first arena from the east gate all the way around and back, you get back to the east gate, we want you to unfurl your tail from that birch bark so everyone will be astonished by its beauty." Possum's like, "That's a good idea. I like that." Now this goes back to our traditions. When we would come into the arena, you would have like a blanket or something over your regalia, and you'd make your way around like grand entry, and then when you got back around time to dance, you'd take it off, and then everybody could see your regalia. Possum's out there and he's dancing. They're like, "Oh, there's birch bark. Why has he got birch bark? What's going on? It's all covered up. What's he?" So Possum makes his way all the way around and gets back to that east gate over there, and he reaches back and he pulls that birch bark off and throws it on the ground, and he starts strutting because, man, he knows he looks good. And there's gasps from the crowd. And he's like, "Oh yeah, baby, I got it." He's just dancing and dancing, you know. And the gasps start turning into chuckles, and the chuckles start turning into laughter, and he's like, "What's going on? Someone must be messing up real bad behind me, you know." And he turns around and looks, and he sees that stringy, ratted out tail that he's got. He got so embarrassed he fall over and pretend like he's dead.
Oh.
So the possum does that to this day. When he thinks you've seen his tail, he's embarrassed. But I told my daughter that because, yes, you know, you're out there and you're dancing and you're beautiful and you look beautiful, and yeah, you can rock it, but you don't talk about it. People don't like that. So again,
Beautiful
you know,
wisdom.
this simple children's story teaches us how to behave or not to behave around the people and how we interact with each other. And also, you know, protocol and ceremony, and there's a lot of things that are learned out of that one story. So depending on what lesson you might be trying to get across, you might emphasize one part of a story or another, you know, to get across what you wanted to. There's plenty of them that way. My grandmother used to tell a story about bats and playing we call the little brother to war stickball. You call lacrosse today. That's a Native American sport. People don't know that because it's played mostly by Ivy League white guys in their colleges, you know.
Yeah.
But lacrosse is a way that the people would solve issues, you know, other than going out and killing each other. Who's the civilized one now, right?
Yeah. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So that's why it's called the little brother to war. They would play a ball game to figure out whose hunting ground this was going to be this year, or, you know, settle differences that would otherwise end in bloodshed. And it's a rough game. Don't get it twisted. There's still bloodshed. It's a rough game. But about, you know, picking teams is when, you know, our cousins, we'd be out playing basketball with, you know, an old bicycle rim stuck to a piece of plywood on a pole, you know, or a tree, and we, you know, playing basketball. But when we're picking teams, we always, you know, always leave the little guys out. You know, you always want the bigger guys for your basketball team. And I remember my grandma, she's like, you know, you shouldn't do that. And she told this story about when the animals had gotten together, the flyers and the four-leggeds. And they were kind of arguing over and got into a conflict of who was better, you know, the flyers or the four-leggeds. And they wanted to have that contest, so they were going to play a game of stickball. And so the captain of the four-leggeds is the deer. He's swift, agile, smart, big crown, you know. And he's picking his teams. He picks Yona, the bear. You know, he's picking the beaver. You know, he's all steadfast and works hard all the time. He picks the panther. You know, he's powerful. He's picking, and the whole time the little mouse is like, I want to play. I want to play too. I want to play. And the bear says to him, get out of here before I eat you. You know, you're too little. Get out of here. And all the other four like, you're too small. Go on. You know, we don't need you. So all dejected, you know, the little mousey kind of walks off into the woods and comes to where the Flyers are picking their teams. And of course the captain of the Flyers is Wally, the eagle. And he's, you know, choosing his team, and, you know, Sully, the buzzard, can fly forever and never gets tired. You're on my team. You know, the hawk can see very well, swift, agile. You're on my team. The owl can see at nighttime because a lot of these games go late. Yeah, you're on my team. And he's picking, and the little mouse says, I want to play too. I want to play. Eagle says, I don't know. You're awful small. Walela, the hummingbird, speaks up and says, I am the fastest flyer here. No one, not one of you can doubt that. All the other birds are like, yeah, she is the fastest. She goes, you don't judge me by my size. And they're like, yeah, that's right. Can't. She's the fastest and the small, but we can't do that. Eagle says, go ahead, fasten him some wings. We already have our team, but if somebody gets hurt, you can come in and play. The mouse was ecstatic. He just wanted to be on the team, you know. So the game starts, and it's a close one, you know. First the four-legged score, and then the Flyers score, and then the four-legged, and then the Flyers, and then the four-legged Flyers. I mean, it's back and forth. It's a great game. Great game. And just as the sun starts setting, the little bird gets hurt, and he's out. His wing is hurt. He can't fly anymore. He's out. So Eagle says, bring in that mouse. So here comes Mouse. Now, he's not used to his wings, so he all over the place like this, right? And, you know, the sun is just coming down. He's like that. But he gets the ball, and he takes it, and he goes, and the bear stands up, rah! And he goes right up underneath his legs. So all the bear's strength was for nothing. The deer and his agility, the little mouse with wings, he's going around and tripped the deer up. Deer ended up rolling. Panther comes after him, you know, the mountain lion. Panther comes after him. And little mouse with wings goes around and round and round, spun him around so he ended up running down the wrong way down the field. He goes past the fox and all his wittiness, past the beaver who's keeping goal, and boom, scores the winning score to win the game.
Yay.
And that's how the bat got his wings. So when the sun comes down, he's still not used to me flies like that. But you look at the bat, he's a little mouse with wings. But Grandma told us that story because you got to be careful not picking the little guy because he might join the other team and come back and kick your butt.
That's right.
With all these stories that you've been telling, for me it sticks. It sticks a lot more than if you were just to lecture me and say, don't be vain or don't be treating somebody that way. It's something that I will remember, and it's a fun, easy, soft way to remember. Very powerful, though.
Yeah, very powerful.
That's how things are done. I remember had this uncle who, anytime I was doing something, foolish as a young person, he would have a story. And the cousins would kind of like make fun of it. It's like, oh, he's going to come tell us a story. But when you're young, you don't realize
appreciate it.
What's happening and what he's doing. And because, they do stick. Mm-hmm. And, and you're laying in bed later, you're thinking about that. You're like, oh, yeah, maybe I should,
Yeah.
Let me rethink what I'm doing here.
What a beautiful, gentle way to weave in wisdom, Yeah.
And again, some stories are for entertainment, just to make everybody laugh.
But that's something that we've lost. We have totally lost that whole storytelling concept. I'm just so wrapped up in what you're saying right now, and it just draws me in, and I don't feel we have that luxury, or we don't make that luxury anymore.
We don't. Again, it's mostly entertainment now. Mm-hmm. It's the TV. It's the box. It's our idiot bricks.
Yeah.
It's these modern conveniences and technology have stolen a lot of that. Because people now don't want to learn a lesson. They just want to be entertained. Mm-hmm. And now we run around saying whatever to whoever and treating each other badly. We run around doing things that we shouldn't be because we've lost that. We went to church and they said don't do this and don't do that. There's 10 rules you got to follow. There's a lot more than 10. And you got to think of them in a context, all these different rules and things in society as we live it. You got to think of them in a very human context and situation. Now, these stories were full of animals, but they were very human. And you got to think about traditional stories amongst indigenous people all over the planet. Now, those stories might say, well, it was, the red wolf that said this. Well, was it a red wolf that gave us the songs? Or was it a man named Red Wolf? Does it matter? No. I had also with these stories, I had a cowboy type fella here in Prescott tell me, that's them fairy tales and fables, all them animals, that's just ridiculous. Nobody could really believe that. And I said, what if I told you a story about a talking snake who offered you to eat an apple, which after eating it, you got ashamed and you wanted to put clothes on because you were ashamed of yourself. What if I told you a story about that talking snake? Would you believe it? Oh, that's different. Is it?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But again, that's the mindset of I'm better than you.
And it goes back to ignorance.
Oh, of course.
In indigenous traditions, the earth is often viewed as a living being. Could you speak about what it means to be in right relationship with the earth and, of course, with the animals?
In most all indigenous traditions, whether it be in Asia, here in the Americas, Africa, Europe, indigenously, like the Sami people and the original Celtic and Gaelic-speaking peoples. Pre-Roman contact, as we should say, in Europe. Mother Earth is sacred, and she's alive. She, just like any mother, gives to us the nourishment we need. She provides for us and keeps us warm. To acknowledge that and continue to acknowledge it every day and take only what you need from her and nothing more is a right way to live with Earth and with the animals, of course, because that goes hand in hand. They're doing it now. It's more difficult for them because humans keep encroaching into their environments, and then now they're a nuisance, and now they get shot and trapped and everything else. But acknowledging that she is a living being and that that we get nourishment from her, and thinking of her as our mother that's it, because the way your mind works is the way you operate in the world. And I want to bring that back to language just for a second.
Sure.
In most all indigenous languages, you would say, a bear is there. You're stating, making this, a bear is there. In English, you say I, me, I come first, me, even though I am not subject of the conversation or the statement, I see a bear. Your mind works differently that way. In most indigenous languages, there is no word for I. It's we and us. So, again, thinking about her as our mother or our grandmother, and how your own mother gave you that nourishment as a child, and kept you warm and protected you. Things happened. It's not, sunshine and roses all the time. Reality is just that. It's reality. But for the most part, thinking of her as a living being is the way to start living in a good way with her. And beyond that, start eating and nourishing yourself from her through the seasons properly. Plant a garden. Grow what is traditionally indigenous to the environment which you're living in. There's some folks online, Native Seeds, that have a lot of these heirloom seeds from indigenous communities. And if you're a Native person, they'll send them to you for free. But my wife and I got a bunch for free. So we planted our garden with them. Do that. Eat seasonally. If it's not in season to be eating tomatoes, then you probably shouldn't be eating tomatoes. If, you think our ancestors weren't eating meat every single day either. You went out and got a deer or a buffalo and you ate good, lots of protein, and then you mostly ate corn, beans, and squash. The Three Sisters, right? No matter what tribe, we all had them all across the continent. So, getting back to her cycles and working with her, recognizing spring. We don't celebrate those equinoxes anymore. Some people do, but for the most part they don't.
I do.
And right on. Yeah, well, that's true. But acknowledging that's what that is. That celebration is an acknowledgement and a thank you to her. And then to that spring equinox, and then to that summer solstice, the fall equinox, which is around Dia de los Muertos, the Samhain, right? See, those celebrations used to happen properly at the right times. And then again to winter and the solstice. A lot of these stories that we tell with many traditions, particularly here in the Southwest, but with many folks, some of these stories, they shouldn't be told outside of winter, because a lot of them are about animals. And in wintertime, the animals are sleeping and they don't know we're talking about them, so they won't come and give us rheumatism, arthritis, so we can't hunt.
Oh.
So We don't want them knowing we're talking about them. They might get upset. So we tell stories when they're sleeping. That, and that winter time is the time of your elders. It's nasty outside. It's cold, rainy, snow, ice. You go inside, Grandma, Grandpa, tell me a story, because it's their time in that winter time. And springtime would be for the infants, babies. And the reason why grandmas and grandpas always love holding little babies is because they're getting ready to go home, and the babies just come from the spirit world that way. So that's that circle.
The circle, yeah.
So getting back to, again, with Earth, is those acknowledgments, and start thinking differently about her. That's how you start. The rest, I can't tell you. I'm no medicine man. I'm not any of that. But I do know that from how I've been told, that's the right way.
It makes so much sense. I'm often planting seeds and doing my best to nurture them. I have a garden upstairs that I love when, like tomatoes or strawberries or blueberries, I always thank the bush for producing, and it tastes so much better. It tastes so much better when it's here and I'm watching it grow and mature. And I love what you said about the seasonal, honoring all the seasons.
Yeah, there's a reason. Well, a reason for the season, right?
Yeah.
There's a saying that even in English that rhymes and everything that people kind of lost track of. Strawberries. Do you know where the first patch of wild strawberries came from?
I do not.
A long time ago, the first man and first woman, Kanati, the great hunter, and Selu, corn mother, they were going about their day to day, as couples do. They kind of got in a bit of an argument. We all do it with our spouses, our partners. And they're going back and forth, and it got heated, and they both started saying things that they didn't really mean. They were just angry and saying these bad things to each other. Well, the man, he said something really, really awful. She got upset and headed off into the woods. And he's like, go on with you. I don't need you anyway. Back to doing whatever. And as that got later in the day, and the sun started going down, he's like, wow, she ain't back yet. She's gone quite some time. And then it got dark, and there was no moon that night. He's like, wow, I better go look for her. And he's like the great hunter. He could track anything, and he's going through and he can't find her tracks. It's too dark. And he's just getting really worried, and all night long he's looking for her. Well, just as the sun starts peeking up on the next day, he got enough light where he found her tracks, and he followed them. And he got deep in the woods there, following her tracks, and he come to a small clearing meadow. Just on the edge there, he saw her against a tree, weeping, crying, cold, scared. He called out to her, and she looked up, and they were so happy to see each other they forgot completely about what they were arguing about and all of that. And they made love right there. And that is a spot where the first patch of wild strawberries grew. So, many Cherokee households will keep the strawberry preserves or strawberry jam. I have a picture, like from the secondhand store, of a big strawberry, like somebody painted in our glass or something, that's hanging in our kitchen, to remind my wife and I that even, we bicker at each other and get on each other's nerves, probably me on hers more than her me, but that strawberry's there to remind us that no matter what, that we have that. And if you look at a strawberry, it's shaped like your heart, like a real heart, not a heart. It's shaped like a real heart. So there you go. There's your strawberry story.
I will remember that every time.
That's beautiful. You're a great storyteller.
The words resonate so well, and it's
Thank
bringing
you
up
for
a
sharing
knowing
your
within
wisdom.
us.
Oh, well, what the? I'm glad that I'm able to share them with you, and I'm glad you invited me to come and speak with y'all. And it feels good to be able to share things to folks that are receptive. You know, they say that revenge is sweet, but I think sharing is sweeter. Sweet like a strawberry.
Yes.
It does. It feels good to be able to do this. But yeah, thank
We are
you.
grateful. Could you share how non-Native people can respectively learn from Indigenous wisdom without appropriating it?
When you're dealing with other cultures, other people, I found that looking at it as if you're something being shared with you, look at it as a window and not a door. It's something you can see and hear and experience from the outside, because if you're not of that culture, you're not of that, then never would you really be, it's not your responsibility to be through the door and in there. Again, I've said this before in other talks, the Creator gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you talk. I know it's saying a lot from the guy who's been talking this whole time, but the concept would be listen and take that in. You know, if those a story you heard or what have you, something happened, it resonates your heart, good. You know, use that. But don't try to take it as it's your own and go around sharing that wisdom, that medicine, as if it was yours to share, because it's not. Just being human, living in a good way, planting your garden, trying to live off the land like nature intended, acknowledging Mother Earth, acknowledging the seasons, acknowledging every morning when you get up that you're thankful for that. You know, greet the sun. All those things, that's not appropriation. That's just living the right way. But to take and then start trying to don feathers in your hair and thinking that you were gifted because the voice in your head told you that, you know, your name is now Swift White Wolf Woman. That is not something you should be doing. And know when others might be doing something that is disrespectful or not okay or appropriative. Then you can say something. I wouldn't try to go on some long rant about what you know, but tell them it's not appropriate. Be a good ally means listening. Being a good ally means giving space to those in that community who you're supporting to use their voice, and being very, very aware of the fact that you need to not take up any of that space, because it's not your space to take up. It's not your place to speak on their behalf. Chances are, regardless of how much time you may have spent within that community or what have you, chances are you're not going to get it deep down where it needs to come from. It's always going to be a bit more just surface knowledge that you have. So try not to occupy those spaces. Try not to silence or speak over those voices. That's a good way to be a good ally without appropriating things. When you go and buy, let's say, your turquoise or native jewelry, which is beautiful, yes it is, absolutely. Make sure you talk to that artist, buy from them directly. Talk to them. What does it mean? What does that mean? Because once you wear something like that, now you're responsible for that medicine. It's yours now. And it was given to you in a good way. You help that family. They're going to buy groceries, maybe some McDonald's on the way home, whatever. You help that family, but you should know what you're wearing, as opposed to just wearing it because it looks pretty. You gotta know. That's being a good ally too. And that's appreciation and not appropriation. Make friends with that person. Contrary to the old westerns, we're actually quite friendly folks. Some of us are still very, very angry, and rightfully so. I carry plenty of anger, but I try not to let that spread out. I try not to let that get out there. And when I'm amongst folks from, outside my family, my own family, I don't talk like this, like we're doing now. Not my place. It's retraining again the way we think about the world around us and how we perceive it.
The emotional and mental maturity.
You bet. All of it, yeah. Yeah, I have to. That's real tough for me. You can tell I like to talk.
No.
Well, that's great for the podcast.
Yeah, we're asking you to. We're asking you to.
Yeah, we want you to.
Yeah.
do it.
So, in speaking about all of the animals in your stories, in real life, when an animal crosses your path, how do you listen for its message?
Animals cross your path all the time. A lot of time we don't even recognize it or acknowledge it or any of that. Anytime an animal, particularly a wild animal, crosses your path, think of it as a blessing. I can't really give you like this super wisdom teaching that will encompass every animal that crosses you. A lot of them have to do with our stories. So like this animal, what kind of medicine does he bring? Like for example, a skunk. His medicine is respect. Everybody respects a skunk, except for the coyote and the dog, because they're stupid. Everybody else respects a skunk. That's his medicine. So when you see skunk, maybe that message is respect. An eagle or a hawk flying, that's a blessing. A buffalo or elk or deer, that's a good blessing of abundance and nourishment. It may not be physical nourishment, maybe spiritual, but nourishment. You think of, well, here comes the coyote. Well, you gotta watch out, because he's the trickster. Same with rabbit, but again with us, rabbit always gets over on Elmer Fudd, right? Or Yosemite Sam or whoever he's going up against. So it depends on those stories that you're used to and your own people, that animal will reflect that and send that message to you. I would say, a lot of times it's just like you cross an animal's path, let's say you're hiking and they're coming across the path and you're walking on the little trail and there they are, they're usually look at you like, oh, crap. They didn't expect to see you there and they're just going about their day to day, just like you are. Are you looking for some super spiritual message there? Probably not, because it's just two living beings that happen to by each other. A lot of times though, when you're talking about like they come specifically to give you a message, you gotta think, is that animal behaving normally like they normally do, or are they doing something odd? Are they coming right up to you? Are they staring directly at you? Are they offering anything to you physically, like a feather? I'll give you an example. One afternoon I was taking a nap and I dreamt about this hawk who came to me and gave me a tail feather. And I was like, okay. So I got my dog, went out and walked by the creek, and as we're walking along, here was this hawk tail feather sticking in the grass, hadn't touched the ground, it's sticking in this little bushel of grass. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like real Indian stuff, So, wow. And I picked it up and I pulled my cigarettes out, broke the cigarette out, offered tobacco, thank you. And so, what do? And when I was to the four directions, east, south, west, north, and this hawk come out of the tree and circled and then left. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
And I got goosebumps now like I did that day.
Yeah, I did too.
But I still have that. That is the first one I caught after I come home from the military.
Oh.
So, in that way, yeah. But again, it could have just been a hawk lost a feather.
But it turned into
Uh,
something much more meaningful
it did.
because it's
It did.
also the intention.
Right. That does a lot there. So, are they behaving differently than they probably normally would? That's kind of key. But, again, I don't recommend anybody going out and walking into the woods looking for wild animals to interact with.
Right.
You're going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Or
You're
picking up
gonna have
hawk
an
feathers.
experience.
Or
What's that?
picking up, I said, or picking up hawk feathers unless you're native.
Well, yeah, even that, if you don't have a permit for the migratory birds and raptors, you can get in trouble,
Really?
even as a native person. I have my permit for my eagle feathers from the Department of Fish and Game, and I can have eagle parts, and I can possess and transport them. So to have an eagle feather, if you did not have that card, regardless if you're a native person or not, you could get in trouble.
I did not know that.
So even with like hawk or anything like that, owl, which to some cultures you shouldn't be wearing. Some cultures believe the owl is that messenger to tell you, somebody in your family's gonna die. So there's an owl. Oh, I see an owl. No, I don't. I don't.
There are no owls.
Yeah, what owl? I don't. Yeah, where in other cultures, like, well, yeah, it's a spiritual messenger, but not necessarily bad. In some cultures, like my own, some people can shapeshift into owls. Um, and we would call them skili, like a witch, bruja. Can be bad, can be good. Don't really don't like to touch on that subject too much. But again, these different animals can mean different things to different cultures at any given time. But I think that the key thing is how is that animal behaving? Are they behaving in a way that really speaks to you? Then chances are you're getting a message. Are they just hanging out, doing the coyote thing, doing the fox thing, doing the deer thing? Then probably not.
In what ways do animals speak or teach that can't be understood by science or artificial intelligence?
We've all had pets before, right? Dogs, cats, guinea pig. Animals, unlike people, have emotion. They understand family. They understand love. And they understand when somebody is not a good person. They know better than anybody else. I always say I'll trust a dog who doesn't like people before I trust people who don't like dogs.
That's a good
Yes.
saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you got any kind of energy about you that is fearful or uh, malintentive, you're not a good person. You look to hurt others, or that's kind of your vibe. Animals pick up on that, and they know. We've kind of lost that in our numbness to not being attached as well as we should be to Mother Earth, to nature, to all these things. And in the old days, many of the stories that I've been told a long time ago, animals used to speak with us. But since we as human beings have screwed that up so badly, they choose not to speak with us anymore. That's why they don't. But in their actions is when they're communicating with you. So amongst four-leggeds like horses, deer, four-legged herd type animals, buffalo, I'm going to demonstrate this with their back to you, so they're walking away, and they do this. That means follow me.
Really?
So they want you to follow them. Things like that. So you would have to be around them enough to start understanding, what their body postures and things are meaning. I had a lady a white lady, who loved to be out in nature, and she would just camp by herself out in the I'm like, oh, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Even a temporary structure in like a tent or teepee or a wicket, whatever, to secure yourself because bad things happen. No, I'm out there in my sleeping bag and blah. Gee, and this coyote came right up to me, and then it sniffed around, and then it walked away and turned back and looked at me. And then walked a little more and turned back and looked at me. I said, he's wanting you to follow him
That's
back to
right.
his pack so they can eat you.
Oh,
That's
wow.
right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. Because, coyote's always hungry.
Oh,
Wow.
of course. And he's
He's
a
always
trickster.
hungry. Yeah, you
I
bet.
have a cardinal. Well, there's several cardinals. We have a bird feeder. And the
Mhm.
cardinal, I swear the cardinal talks to me. And it's more than one. It's not just one cardinal, but they'll come to the window when I have no food in there, and they'll be at the window at the bird feeder, and they'll make their noise, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
lady, you're slacking off. Get over here and feed us. And I have to I rush out there and I feed them. So they have
They're
me trained.
communicating with you.
Yeah, they have me trained. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They're smart. They're intelligent. They have a soul. They have wants and needs and desires and love for their little babies in the nest. They have all the things we have. And again, acknowledging that will help you better understand them and be more open to when they are actually communicating with you.
From your perspective, what are some of the most beautiful aspects of being human that we must never lose, no matter how advanced technology becomes?
That's a good question because technology is definitely eroding what it means to be human. And I would say to counter that actually happening, I would say it's connectivity. It's proximity to other humans. It's being able to share, even as we're using technology right now, being able to share things that make you get goosebumps. To share things that make your heart feel a certain kind of way. Whether it be, romance or platonic love. Love
Love
is
for the
a
world.
powerful thing. Yeah, absolutely. But to exchange that with other humans on a very, very personal level is what's necessary. You think about planting a garden, like proximity, right? If you're looking to grow something, you can't just take a seed and throw it on the ground and expect that to happen. You need dirt under your fingernails. You need to get in there and get dirty. Proximity to that garden and nurturing it and caring for it is going to produce wonderful fruit. But if you don't, you'll be lucky if you get anything at all. But yeah, dirt under your nails, getting in there, proximity. It's all about proximity. Being a good ally is about proximity. Being a good friend is about proximity. Being a good partner and spouse is about proximity. You can't distance yourself and expect things to go well in your relationship. That doesn't work. As a guy that was in the military for 8 years, I will tell you that doesn't work.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you.
What to, I always used to say I'd go back and do it again, but I'm too old for that crap. I'll leave that to younger people, and hopefully these younger people understand when they need to righteously and lawfully say nope to an order that is unjust and unlawful, given our current climate.
Going back to what you were saying about being connected with humans, that's the whole reason why we wanted to do the human community, was to remind people of all of the beautiful aspects of being human and remembering our human essence. And part of that is connecting with other humans, that emotional, those human emotions that you're talking about. And we're grateful that you were able to be here.
Sure. So until, again, you guys invited me on here, this has been really great. It felt good to share with you. It felt good to see you again, Victoria, and it felt good to meet you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's something we're missing. It's easy. You can see people on social media going back and forth, saying all kinds of things that that person would not say if we were standing here face to face. Those keyboard warriors, if you will. We need to get back to that personal interaction, that face to face.
Shaking hands.
You bet. You betcha. And if you know them well enough, the hugging. Some people are huggers, some people are not. But that's powerful too. When we were out there in that dance arena, even in our powwows, which are very contemporary and whatnot, but still ceremony nonetheless. They say that when we're out there in that arena, all these different tribes, men and women, different areas from all over the continent, and we're all out there stepping and dancing to that drum. We say the drum is the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And that when we're all out there, that all of our hearts start beating in rhythm and tune together, and with that drum, with Mother Earth. And that is a beautiful feeling and a beautiful thing that cannot be duplicated, it cannot be replaced, and it cannot be shared outside of that circle. You have to be in there. When you go to a powwow and the MC, Master of Ceremonies, it says intertribal. All human beings are tribal people. Red, yellow, black, and white. We all belong in there. Now, when it's an exhibition or they're doing some contest or something, of course, everybody doesn't go in. It's just those folks or that tribe or that dance style or what have you. But when it's intertribal, that means everybody. So even your non-native folks, you can go out there and dance with everyone and get your heartbeat in line with Mother Earth and everybody in there. That's a way to be able to connect as well in a real and powerful way. You can find powwows everywhere, all across Turtle Island, as we call this continent. But it's one way to do that and actually participate and have that connection. Again, getting your hands dirty, maybe planting that garden, whether it be metaphorically or actually, greeting the sun, celebrating those equinoxes and solstices, and being really connected, like we're supposed to.
There's so much disconnection, and I stand back and I just observe, but I would just wish upon everybody just to stop what they're doing and just really connect in a way that's authentic and not on their phones, not anything else. When we have breaks, we can have 10 people in one room and nobody's talking to each other. They're all on their phones. Or just the activities that I witness, it just feels very empty. And I wish upon the earth for people to really just get down to basics, get down to the humanism, and just feel that loving energy again. That's all.
That's a good prayer.
Yeah. So for people out there who are not connected or feel that they're not connected to their ancestors, what would you suggest their first step be to get connected to their ancestors?
People are looking to reconnect specifically to their ancestors. I would say start looking for your community, because you still have relatives out there that that share these ancestors with you. The short and simple version would be talk to them. Talk to them. Just because they're on that other side doesn't mean they're not watching and listening. Just because, you know, you might have left home doesn't mean one or two of them might have not went with you. You got to think that in the realm that our ancestors existed in that way, the distance doesn't mean anything, or time doesn't mean anything to them. That's a concept we have in our heads here in this physical reality that we live in, world. Talk with them. I ask Mike for help all the time. My brother, a great mechanic, working on cars and stuff, and he used to drag race at Formosa drag strip in Bakersfield and blah, 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 blah. When he has trouble, like unloosening a bolt, he'll be like, "Grandpa, help me." You know, he does it. Talk to them. Talk to them. It's, again, with any relationship, really, you have to communicate. It's no different with them. I mean, you don't have to say it out loud like my brother Tim does, but you can just, think it with your heart, with your soul. They'll hear you. It's like, talking to God, right? The Creator, you pray silently. It works the same way. If you're crying out, there's more emotion and passion, energy in it. Of course, the voice is going to go further, like you're shouting. Same. Intention, as you spoke to before, has a lot to do with all of that. But yeah, talk to them.
How can our listeners support the preservation and celebration of Indigenous cultures in their own communities?
They can find out where there's a need, and if they are able, give what they can, whether that be time, whether that be resources of any kind. I'll give you an example of some of the things we do here at the museum to put in a more realistic, physical, tangible example and perspective. Every year here at the Museum of Indigenous People, we do a backpack drive for kids on the res, particularly in the rural areas. They're away from, let's say they would have to, have the money to go into town, maybe to Walmart or Target or whatever, and go shopping for school supplies. They'd have to have the money to do that, A. B, have the transportation to do that, and the fuel to do that, and a vehicle to do that. Where in some cases, out here in the more rural spots in the res, they don't even have electricity or running water. So, when a family gets some resources, money, what have you, books aren't a priority. Food, clean water, and, staying warm are a priority. So we do a backpack drive here, and it started out on about 100 or so backpacks to rural Navajo Nation. And you got to think too, I hear people in the interwebs out there saying, they all got casinos. Yeah, not every tribe. And you got to remember, we, as Indigenous people, learn government from, the government. So I think that's all I need to say about that. So,
Yes.
There is a need. And so the museum was able to fill that by having a backpack drive. We come to find out we needed a heck of a lot more than 100. So then it became 200 and then 300. And we are up to over 550 some odd backpacks delivered this year to various rural kids that really need it. Not all the kids do, but some of them really, really do. And that we try to get them there. At one of the Apache reservations here in Arizona, the fires that went through there were quite damaging. A lot of folks lost everything. It was good and it felt good to be able to deliver these school supplies that these kids need for the year, so that they can at least have that help to get that education they're going to need to maybe grow up one day and fight for their people in a good way, in an educated way, and be able to navigate the world around them. Well, heck, like I have learned to do.
Yeah. And when do you do that? You said it's every year.
Yeah, every year we distribute. We take them in all year round.
Okay, good.
We also do, yeah, we also do a warm clothing drive because that's needed, particularly up north. The winters can be pretty harsh. And you got grandmas and grandpas out there that are, herding their animals around. They need to stay warm. So very, very gently used or new coats, jackets, socks, warm socks, those types of things. And we take them up there and distribute them to the different districts on the res, particularly where they need them. And we let the people then distribute them from their own village centers or district community centers, because they know where they need to go. I don't know every individual person living up there. I couldn't go and say, I know he needs one.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
And that's all on your website to donate?
To donate, we typically advertise it when we get a little closer, because all year round, folks here in the community are great in the Prescott area, and they're constantly bringing us things because they know we do this stuff. Heck, during COVID, when that disease had hit Indian country so hard, and we kind of became an unofficial drop-off point. We ended up delivering over 5,000 some odd masks and cleaning products and food trucks and truckloads of food up to the res, because these folks couldn't leave their villages. They couldn't leave at all. And we brought that up there, masked up, of course, gloved up, and distributed it as much as soon as we got it out there. One of them was an orphanage on tribal lands that was run by actually a non-native nonprofit group that specifically was there for it. It was a faith-based organization, but they were doing good work and they needed help, and we were able to bring that help to them. We do things like that because it's what you should be doing. There's a word in our language, gazuki. And I remember hearing my grandpa say it when I was little, and me and my brothers, hey, Grandpa's making up funny words again. Of course, he like he would say he was talking Indian, but he's speaking jerky. We'd say, Grandpa, where are you going? Because he put his hat on, and when he put his hat on, we knew he was going to town. And he said, I'm going this little gazuki over here. Gazuki, there's no word for it in English, and what it means is when people in the community come together to help someone who needs help. And it's a way that all human beings should live their life in our worldview. Because if you're not helping in your community, you're not adding to your community, you're not out there. The closest word you could think of in English would be volunteer. But if you're not helping someone else out in your community when you have the means to do so, you're not being a very good human. So anyhow, that's the museum has been doing that, and we haven't stopped. If we weren't doing that very thing, we would be guilty of the colonizer mentality that started institutions like this. Because a museum by itself is a colonized thought process and institution. Somebody else's culture behind a glass, isn't that interesting? I own it. Right. Come and look at it. Come gawk at it. If we weren't doing what we could to help the people, then we have no business doing what we do as a museum, trying to educate the public on who their neighbors are. So we continue to do that, and we always will. At least as long as I'm here.
It is so far-reaching. That's great.
It's been pretty awesome.
And again, it'll have that ripple effect.
Yeah, you've done such great stuff since you've been there.
It gets to be a lot. It
Yeah.
really does, and it's again, then we were talking earlier about you say that ripple effect. It's like you throw a pebble into a pond, and it makes a big splash here, but you don't always see where those ripples go out and actually splash on the shore. You don't always see that, and you know, what forest? All these stupid trees are in the way. You just don't
Yeah.
always see where it goes and how that works. So it's good when you are able to hear about it happening somewhere else. It's it always feels good
Yeah.
knowing that your late nights and your weekends and are all for a good thing.
Oh, and then it just everybody benefits from it.
Manuel,
Yeah.
if you could give one teaching from your culture to every person on earth, what would it be?
I don't know about my culture. I mean, I can't even sit here and say I'm an expert in my own culture. The one thing that I did learn in my short time here on this planet and in college and the military and experiences and all those things is I ain't an expert in nothing. There is so much that I would like to learn. There is so much that I will probably never learn. And there is so much that I haven't learned. I could say maybe a teaching that I can share personally. I might say that. From who I am, a mixed American with Native roots. I would say every person of every faith could probably get into this and understand it or apply it into something that may be out of the book that they follow or what have you. Get to know your neighbors. Get to know them. You don't have to agree with them in any way, shape, or form. But honestly, open your heart a bit and open your mind and get to know them. And I'm not talking about your immediate neighbor. Well, that's a good place to start. But I'm talking about the folks that share this land with you, that share the oxygen you're breathing. Get to know them, because the more you know about someone else, the less likely you are to throw rocks at them. Human nature is, oh my gosh, what is that? I've never seen it before. It's so strange. Hey, hit it with a stick. Like, that's what we do. Right? But when you know more about the person next to you or, across from you or what have you, you have less and less reasons to dislike them. Now, in a nutshell, as a whole, not that there aren't people that don't like dogs, people that dogs don't like them.
Yeah.
What I mean is, animals can tell that you're a bad person. Not that there aren't bad people, but you start learning about other people as a whole. You start learning about their culture, the way they believe, the way they view the world. And you come to understand that you got a heck of a lot more in common with each other than you do differences. And so, yeah, get to know your neighbor.
Beautiful.
Just taking that time,
Thank you.
and that's an effort, but it's well worth the effort.
It is.
For sure.
And again, it goes back to proximity. The closer you are to something, the more you can be part of it or affected by it or.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you said about opening your heart, even if it's just a little bit,
Mm.
because you can meet your neighbor, and if you don't have an open heart, it's just going to be 2 seconds of your life. Whereas if you open your heart, it could be a beginning of a beautiful friendship, really.
Well, Manuel, please tell everybody how they can support your efforts at the museum and anything else you want our listeners to know.
Yeah, so the Museum of Indigenous People is located here in Prescott. We are located at 147 North Arizona Avenue in Prescott. We have a website. It's www.museumofindigenouspeople.org. I'd like to say the longest emails in the West. If you go on their website, you can see a lot of the cool events and things that we're doing throughout the year, um, uh, as well as plenty of photos and whatnot of the museum itself and the folks that frequent here. Um, you can also mash a donate button while you're on there. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Um, and when when we talk about donations and such, and I know there's a lot of organizations out there that, maybe their CEO is of these nonprofits, or he's making millions of dollars and he's got, uh, eight-figure salary and so on and so forth. I am actually one of the, if not the, lowest paid executive directors in the country. So we ain't spending money on staff. What we do need to do is we need more space to do more exhibits, as well as we're looking to create a new welcome center between our two very historic buildings that are on the National Historic Registry. A visitor center and cultural center, or welcome center and cultural center. What we have is about 3,500 folks living here in the greater Prescott area who are identify as indigenous people. And less than 400 of them are of the Prescott Yavapai tribe. So everyone else is from other tribes that come here to live and work just like everyone else. It's really tough and a bit of a culture shock when you leave your traditional community and come live in town, or amongst folks that maybe not get your sense of humor or have a pre-existing belief or judgment, pre-existing judgment, that's where prejudice comes from, about who you might be as a Native person. And it makes it tough. It makes it tough. And so what we'd like to do is have that space where these folks can gather and kind of feel at home away from home, if you would, and and share the laughter and the jokes and the stories, and teaching the young people how to maybe make a pair of moccasins or how to do those basic dance steps to the drum. We used to do that here pre-COVID at the museum. I used to do a drum and dance class over here for the Native kids that were transplants like myself and my own children. To have a space where we could do that would be fantastic. And again, it would open up more space for exhibits. It will open up more space for those cultural activities that we are able to share with the public, so that the public can come and experience that and learn from that and all those wonderful things. So we're ramping up with that right now. The kickoff for that campaign, I guess, will be called that Red Spirit event that you'll find on the website. That's all over. And yeah, you can sign up for our newsletter and we'll send that out to you and keep you informed of all the wonderful things we do. We also offer museum membership. It's of course free for any Native person to come in. We ain't going to charge you to look at your own stuff. That's ridiculous. And that's regardless of political boundaries. Mexico, Canada, it doesn't matter. Native people are Native people. But we do have membership levels, corporate and down to individual and student and so on. That helps us keep the lights on here and helps us maintain and continue to excel in our mission, which is to instill understanding and respect for the indigenous cultures of the Southwest. So if you want to come check us out and maybe help us out, museumofIndigenousPeople.org.
And you also have a shop on. You can purchase items on.
We do.
Okay.
We do. We have what we call our trading post, which is essentially our gift shop. Everything in the trading post is 100% native made. We do have T-shirts and little tchotchke pins with the museum logo and whatnot on there that are locally made for us. But all the art and jewelry and all the other wonderful things that you can get from our trading post is 100% native made. No dream catchers from China.
I think I'll have to do a little shopping today.
All right.
I had purchased this gorgeous white bear and it from your museum, and you all shipped it to me. So it's beautiful. So I'm glad that you're
Awesome.
still doing that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The artists, when they come in, typically if you go downtown anywhere, and you go to an Indian shop, and they got their turquoise, their jewelry, and this and the things and the dream catchers. You know, they're marking that stuff up, even if it's real.
Yeah.
They're marking that stuff up, 300%, and you're buying it, and you may not get what you think you're buying. Here, I guarantee you will. And we deal directly with the artist. We only mark up enough to cover our costs. So you're actually getting the price as if you were buying it directly from them. We don't want to try to, cut their throats, as it were, and sell for something higher than what they would have sold it for. We don't do that. We want that to keep the prices competitive and reasonable. But at the same time, we're not over here extracting money from the public. That's crazy. And again, everything you get is genuine.
I like that.
Guaranteed.
Well, Manuel, this has been a beautiful experience talking to you and having this great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your words and your friendship and your heart and your energy. We're so grateful.
Love it.
Well, thank you, beautiful ladies, for inviting me on. I've had fun. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Heck, maybe we should do it again.
Well, we would love
Yes.
that. We would love that. There's so much more that we want to talk about. So much more.
And I'm up for talking, so.
Yeah, it's great. And I was serious when I said that when you were in the beginning, I felt that power coming through. And it's almost as if there was a little symphony of the ancestors just embracing us while we were talking. I felt that energy.
That's how it works. How it works.
So cool.
Well,
All right.
I'm grateful for your ancestors that told you all those stories so that you could share
Yes.
those with us. So we're
I am too.
so grateful. Thank you.
I miss them.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you for
And
sharing
thanks
today.
again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if it doesn't rain on us today, because we're in the middle of monsoon season, I think I'm going to go grab wife and kids and maybe go out, hike around, and do a picnic
Oh, that's
in the afternoon
beautiful.
like that.
Have
Yeah.
fun.
And connect.
Yeah,
Great.
we will.
Good. Okay.
And thank you all for listening and joining us today.
Yes.
As always,
Yes.
we appreciate you.
And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share wherever you can. We would appreciate that.
Otto, thank you.
Thank you.